Are you thinking about moving to Lexington, South Carolina? Well, if so, there's a lot you need to know. My wife and I personally relocated Lexington, South Carolina from Southern California back in 2015. That's right, I'm not from here, so I don't take any information for granted. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you those things, and it's not just gonna be me standing here with a bunch of images of pretty southern homes and lakes. We're gonna do this vlog style, where I'm actually gonna get in my car and take you to the downtown areas, to the shopping district, to the local parks, drive you through neighborhoods and talk to you about what the current pricing is. As well, on the drive, I'm gonna talk to you about some of the pros, as well as some of the cons in living in the area that you may not know about. As well, we're going to talk about some brand new neighborhoods coming right here to downtown Lexington, South Carolina. Currently though, I sit out at the Old Mill Pond that's currently going through its revitalization. But we're gonna circle back around to this a little bit later because there's something coming to this area that many of you have asked me about so many times. But let's go get started in downtown Lexington, South Carolina. All right, welcome to downtown Lexington. One of the big highlights for a lot of people is downtown. And interesting enough, when we first moved here, it wasn't the place it is now. We used to head to Columbia for a lot of things, but it's grown a lot over the years. You have O'Hara's Irish bar that came in, phenomenal atmosphere. If you haven't been there, to check it out. There were some places before, Bodie Tie across the street, but new places. You have the boutique that just jumped in, as well as you have some other different shops and restaurants. O'Hara's Bakery Cafe that opened, they got breakfast going on there, as well as at certain times they do a cocktail bar at night. And then down at the end over here, you also have, of course, the amphitheater that came in that changed this area that I'll talk about in just a minute. But you have Nikki's Pizzeria across the street, the new Barrio Taco place, tacos and tequilas, and then the brand new center across the street from that, where you have Taco Sushi that literally just opened, as well as Moltovino Wine Bar. Again, like I said, the amphitheater. So the amphitheater hosts tons of events. You have concerts in there. During the summer, you have your farmers markets. They do movies during the winter. They just have so many different things going on. And then lastly, Reese has announced in this open space here, Marriott Hotel coming right here to downtown Lexington. For those of you that look for hotels, know there's not a ton in this area, so to have that right here is obviously fulfilling the need. Again, later on, we're going to talk about some brand new neighborhoods coming within walking distance to this downtown area, something some of you have asked me about. But let's continue on. All right, so to give you an idea, we basically just pulled out where the parking for the amphitheater is. On the left-hand side, that was that brand new shopping center I was telling you about, where Taco Sushi literally just opened the other weekend, Moltovino Wine Bars coming there, and so much more. I wanted to drive you back down through downtown Lexington before we head over to the shopping district, parks, and so much more. Because I often get people that comment that during some of these vlog tours, they're like, I want to see the area, not just your face of you talking. Yes, despite most people's recommendations, I do read all the comments, even the passive aggressive ones. Either way, as we leave this area, I do want to circle back here later on because just behind the town square here, Virginia Hilton Park just reopened with a brand new revitalization. I want y'all to check it out. And so we're actually gonna be circling back around towards this area later, and I'll talk about those buildings over there on the right-hand side, as well as we'll stop by that park so y'all can check it out. As we head down this way though, we're gonna stop by another park on the way over to the shopping district, but this actually used to be two-lane streets, and to help mitigate traffic, they created this one way. We're going this way is back towards 378 shopping, and going back the other way is towards town. And this is something I'll talk about in just a little bit as we head further down, is traffic, because this is something that gets brought up a lot. But as we head down this road towards that park that's just gonna be up around the corner, I wanna give you some information about Lexington itself for those not familiar. So you have the town of Lexington, that's 12.12 square miles, population about 24,626. Now, you also have the county of Lexington that the town sits within. Now, this itself is about 757.62 square miles. Estimated population of Lexington County is 309,528. We're gonna be pulling into the park right here. We'll hop out and then we'll head back and I'll talk about some more. So we get started at one of the first parks that we're gonna check out in the Lexington area, and there's a ton more we're gonna look at, some of them that are much bigger and offer a lot more, but obviously the Corley Park out here. And as you can see, they've done a lot of revitalization to a lot of these parks in this area. And so you do have the slides, the sand pits, the splash pads, and so much more out here. Again, there's so many more parks that we're gonna hit along the way, but of course, so many of you ask me about where the local parks parks are. I'm not going to drive up into these neighborhoods, some older established. I'll show you some B-roll as we head to driving to the next area. But I always tell people one of the tricky parts of this area specifically is, as you can see on these 2-lane roads, there's not sidewalks making it easy to get from those neighborhoods to the park or to downtown Lexington. There's some other areas later on that I will show you where it would be sidewalks getting you to downtown Lexington or some of the local parks. So let's get going. All right, so as we leave the park here, as mentioned, there are some neighborhoods behind that. So the first half is going to be non-HOA neighborhood, and the back half is going to have some HOA neighborhoods. Pricing in last year, to give you an idea, was roughly about the 200s, but there were some more in the 400s, obviously depend on that lot size and so much more. Either way, to give you an idea, on the left there, really good Mexican restaurant, Que Bueno. That spot has been a couple different restaurants over the years, but Que Bueno seems to last. We actually went for an anniversary, really good Mexican food. On the left or the right, what you might have seen was Lexington Elementary School. Either way, we're gonna head down to one of the main shopping corridors and districts up here where there's a lot of shopping. Then we're gonna head to some of those neighborhoods I was talking about, give you some pricing, country club neighborhood and that. But either way, as we come up to this intersection here, so this is gonna be Highway 378 heading back towards actually the top of downtown Lexington's Main Street. We're not going to drive down that road during this video. I did it in one of my videos I did early on, so if you want to see that, you can check it out. But there's a couple things down there, big lots and some other stuff. Either way, let's catch up to where we are now. So on the left-hand side is going to be Move Fitness. Used to be a Gold's Gym. Move Fitness is a gym. On the right-hand side, this is actually the old Lexington Middle School. Obviously, you can imagine the traffic it created having a school right here. And so that's when they got rid of that and they built the new Lakeside Middle School. And we'll not pass it during this video, but I'll point out to where it is so you have an idea. Either way, I do want to talk about the traffic because, going back, so that's now an adult education center is what they turned that Lexington Middle School is. Either way, traffic, this is one of the cons a lot of people talk about. It's 11 a.m. when I'm making this video. And as you can see, the congestion. Now, part of it I perceive is this whole chain of intersections right here where those areas merge, and then that left right there that we're passing right now, that's Highway 6. So that's taking you up to Lake Murray, out towards Irmo, which you can continue towards Chapin, the Harbison area, and so much more. So again, creates a lot of traffic. One of the cons, especially like I said, you can see how many cars are moving through here at 11 a.m. But again, either way, we're heading into one of the major shopping districts for the area. Sunset Boulevard shopping. You may have heard me talk about this or other people talking about this. And that's where we are now. So you're gonna have a couple different things in here, right? These first places we're passing on the left-hand side is where you're gonna have Walmart, you're gonna have Home Depot, there's a Buffalo Wild Wings in there. After this light, you may see Chick-fil-A. Also on the right here, you'll see brand new, they're building an Outback Steakhouse. A lot of people are excited to get a steakhouse here in Lexington finally. As well, you'll see Tractor Supply over there, IHOP, Papa John's over there. Either way, as we come up here, on the left is gonna be more shopping. I'll talk about that. You have Publix, you have TJ Maxx, you have Kohl's, Petco, Office Depot, Rack Room Shoes, Five Below. We're gonna turn into a neighborhood up here, but continuing on, you're gonna have Lowe's Home Improvement, Planet Fitness, and so much more. But as we come up here to the light, this is gonna be Old Cherokee Road. And we're not gonna drive down that in this video, but I bring it up just because that Lakeside Middle School is gonna be down Old Cherokee Road. And we're gonna pass by it a little bit later on. This is kind of a triangle that all kind of interlinks together as it crosses over Highway 6 heading out towards Lake Murray, which we will drive to later on after we stop by some of these neighborhoods over in this section. Either way, in just a little bit here, I'm gonna be pulling into a neighborhood, but I wanted to circle back to some Lexington information because one of the things a lot of people have noticed is there's not a lot of really old historic homes in Lexington. That's because back during the Civil War, a lot of Lexington was burned down, including the courthouse. That's right. So that's why, while it's an older town, it doesn't have a lot of that older character homes in it, right? Early 1900s, because of so much was burned down during the Civil War. Either way, we're pulling into the Golden Hills Country Club right now, and we're gonna drive through the first section of this neighborhood, and then we're gonna hop out and talk about it. As you can see, it's a gated neighborhood. Now, I'm gonna make an entire video about gated neighborhoods in just a little bit here, because as you see, gates wide open. I didn't have to stop. And so we have kind of a mix of gates out here, I tell people, right? You got those gates where you go in and you put the code in to get in. Then you have gates like these that most of the day the gate is open. And then at night is when it closes, you have to get it. We do have some security gates where you actually have a security guard that you got to sign in over a cobblestone park. Again, I want to do an entire video about gated neighborhoods because I have people ask about them. Is it safer living behind the gate? You decide. Either way, Golden Hills, we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but as we drive through it, you can see aesthetically established neighborhood and a variety of different styles of homes, right? As you see this one on the corner, kind of more contemporary, where all the other ones are kind of more traditional. You have some southern homes with dual porches and so much more. But country club neighborhood, and the reason I stop in here is we'll talk about when we hop out when it comes to country club neighborhoods, because I have a lot of people ask about them in Lexington. All right, so we're out here at the Golden Hills Country Club, and I'll talk about the neighborhood and pricing right behind me in just a little bit, but I highlight this because obviously this is a major country club living right here in Lexington. Later on, we'll drive nearby where the Lexington Country Club is, but if you watch any of my other videos, I've talked about how there's not a ton of houses on the golf course, where obviously here you got a lot more of that country club living lifestyle. And then of course you have the country club over here with the pool, as you saw behind me, the golf course, tennis courts over here, and so much more. But to give you an idea about the neighborhood itself, for those looking for it, as you saw, gated neighborhood, but homes basically built between 1980s and call it 2024, right? There was a handful of new homes that were built, but primarily going to be older established homes. Pricing ranged from, we're calling it in 2024, from $414,000 up to $926,000. Square footage from 1,745 square feet up to 4,499 square feet. But to give you an idea, the average price in this neighborhood was $625,000. So for those looking for that golf course neighborhood, this is gonna be your primary one right here in Lexington. Ton more over in Columbia, don't get me wrong, but Lexington, this is it, Golden Hills Country Club. All right, so as we pull out of Golden Hills here, kind of drive past some of the shopping, we're gonna stop by another center. I'm gonna hop out and talk about that. But this next intersection here, right there on the left, that's gonna be a road called Kaufman Farm. And if you watch my new construction video, I talked about the D.R. Horton neighborhood coming there with the adult active, right? Talked about this a lot. A lot of you ask me about 55 and older communities, and it's not very prominent in our area. We have some older ones, homes back in the early 2000s, but not much since then. I have an update with that since. But D.R. Horton had announced that they're having an adult active as well as single family. Now, what they haven't said is whether or not this is exclusive 55 plus or it's just geared toward it, which we've seen in some of the other neighborhoods. But I do have an update about Del Webb that after we pull into this plaza here and hop out, I'll talk about. All right, so we're out here at Topspin. I highlight Topspin for a couple different reasons. Obviously, as you see, they got the lap swimming pool over here, and this is heated year round. They actually have a competitive swim team. I grew up a swimmer, so this kind of excites me. We're looking into this for our kids, but it's gonna be hosted by the Carolina Aquatics, and so that's where they compete over here against other areas. As well over here, this membership club, you got the tennis ball courts, pickleball courts, and so much more. Obviously giving those opportunities for activities in the area. Talked about before, our one and only YMCA over here in Lexington used to be on the south side of Lexington, actually shut down pre-pandemic. And since then, a lot of people have asked, you know, where are these places where I can go and do a lot of these things? And obviously this is one of them right here. Now, I will say, as we sit out here, that I've talked to the local chapter of our YMCA, and they are looking to put in a YMCA back in Lexington. But obviously, as for now, you know, looking for that year-round swimming, this is gonna be one of those places because it is heated, where some of the other ones are only gonna be seasonal that we'll pass by later. All right, so as we pull out of Topspin, and I will circle back to Del Webb and some of the other stuff that we're gonna miss as we head over to another one of the neighborhoods and head over towards Lake Murray to show you that. But as I mentioned, would there be no YMCA in Lexington? There are plenty of Lexington County centers that do include baseball fields, soccer fields, tennis courts, volleyball, basketball, and so much more. And we're actually gonna drive by quite a few of them later on, so you'll wanna stick around if you wanna know where those are. So it's not that recreational areas aren't available. Pools are the main thing I will say they're difficult to find. If you watch some of my other videos, you know Columbia has some in their direction, but Lexington, outside of these more private ones in the country clubs, it seems to be harder to find. But we're gonna be pulling into the Whiteford neighborhood in just a little bit, and there's kind of two sections of it. So I'll circle back around to pricing as we get further on. But again, I wanna talk about First Del Webb. Now let me talk about the shopping that we missed. So further down 78 Sunset Boulevard, you're gonna have Hobby Lobby, Aldi, Lidl, Target, World Market, Best Buy, Hudson Smokehouse, which is really good barbecue. Eventually that'll take you down to the interstate, I-20, continuing down 378, past I-20, get down towards I-26 is where the Lexington Medical Center is gonna be. So again, that's that main drag that kind of runs through the area with the shopping corridor. But again, going back to Del Webb, and then I'll talk about this neighborhood we're driving through in just a second. So talking to the developer, the builder, I should say, that makes the Del Webb product, I recently talked to one of them, and what they said is, if you didn't watch the other video, basically they need a minimum of 250 acres because of all the amenities that they have within Del Webb. Second, it has to be within a certain distance of shopping and hospitals. So obviously it's challenging for them to find the land that equates to not only the acreage, but that proximity to the hospitals and that. They are diligently working on this though, and they said they almost found some land, but not quite what they wanted. And so I expect to see Del Webb in the future. I just don't know how long it's gonna be. Either way, we're in the Whiteford neighborhood. Give you an idea, since January, really only 4 homes have closed in this neighborhood. The average price was right around $277. The lowest was $195,000, with the highest being $344,000. You currently have 2 homes, actually probably even a third, because I just showed one this morning. Don't know when you're watching this, but in the neighborhood as well. But those were averaging right around $342,000. So I like to tell people this, to me, is kind of like mini Irmo. And what I mean by that is, right, these are those kind of older established neighborhood tree-lined streets. The homes aren't as old as some of those Whitehalls and neighborhoods like that in Irmo, but it has that same sense and feel, right? And so that's what I tell people about this neighborhood. And I sped this up to take us to the end right here just to save some time, because obviously I think you got the gist of the neighborhood. All right, so as we pull out here on Highway 6, again, this is heading towards Lake Murray. If you remember early on when we were at that split where I talked about, hey, heading left here is gonna take you up that way. So that's about 1.5 miles back. There's some neighborhoods over there I do want to point out here on the right-hand side, Griffin Pools. That's actually who's putting our pool in it as we speak. But either way, heading back there's some neighborhoods I did videos about. You're gonna have Carriage Hill Lakes, you're gonna have Carriage Hill, you're gonna have Hunter's Ridge. That was part of my series where I did the established neighborhoods. Whiteford was one of them, so if you like those styles of neighborhoods, make sure that you check out that video. So the left is, I missed it as I pointed out, but I hope you caught that light, Pilgrim Church. We're gonna be circling back here, and I'm gonna jump back to that section, not to show you this same section here twice. But I wanted to point out now to give you a reference point when I jump back, so you're like, okay, perfect, that's where it was. As we come up here, we're gonna get closer to the lake. Again, this is the main drag connecting Lexington, eventually passing Lake Murray, eventually heading over to, like I said, the Irmo side. On the left though is the Boardwalk Villas. These villas, to give you an idea, since 2022, there's been 2 that have sold, both around 1,100 square feet. One sold for 214, one sold for 249. The one for 214 I showed multiple times, and unfortunately both those backed up to the highway and sold for significantly less. To give you an idea, the ones on the interior with views of the water were selling for around $300,000 back in 2022. So Jake's Landing Marina, we missed that back there at the last gas station. On the right, you also had Corley Mill Road. That'll take you to River Bluff High School. That'll also take you to Saluda River Club. On the left here, all this green space, that's actually where, if you've watched my videos long enough, the Lake Murray Resort, Marina, and Conference Center they were gonna build, that actually got rejected. That was gonna be in this section right here. Now that Conference Center money got reallocated, so probably not gonna see that, but we'll see if that comes in the future. But as we come up here, we're getting close to Lake Murray. And there's a couple things we're gonna pass and I'll talk about. That first one there is gonna be the beach entrance to Lake Murray. The second one we're gonna pass is the one that we're gonna actually stop out and I'm gonna hop out. This is the walking area to be able to walk it. But let's hop out and we'll talk about Lake Murray and then we'll continue back around. All right, so I'm out here at Lake Murray, walking across the dam right now. Obviously, Lake Murray is a big reason a lot of people reach out to us, and like Lexington, the 50,000 acre play place that sits behind me. I'm over here on the dam walk, It's about a 1.7 mile walk from the Lexington side over to the Irmo side. So a 5K there and back for my runners. Either way, on the Lexington side down here, you got the beach area that during the season, you pay to get down there. They got beach access. They got it roped off for those that want to swim, paddleboard, not have to worry about the boat zipping by. Then you have where I parked today, the free parking lot year round where you can park to come walk the dam. On the other side of the lake, the Irmo side of the lake that we talk about, down there, that's where you're gonna have that public boat ramp, as well as some fishing piers. Over there, again, during the season, you pay to get in. After the season, the guard leaves and you can get down there for free. Outside of that, to give you a reference of kind of what it costs to live on Lake Murray, I recently made a video about this, but so basically on the far counties, Newberry, Saluda County, more rural areas, I'm gonna be doing a driving tour in the future about those areas, you're talking about $600,000, $700,000 on average to live on the lake. On this side, Lexington, as well as the Irmo Chapin side, you're talking closer to about $1 million average to live on the lake. All right, so I wanted to give you a perspective of that dam a little bit more. So I basically got started at that north side of the lake where that boat ramp is that I talked about. And I sped this up to save up on time, but give you a perspective of the dam walk as you can see here. And for those around that stuck around, I want to give you another insider tip, fun thing to do when you move here, which we did, is the fence. You can see, put your lock up there, walk your name right here into Lexington. I know we did it when we first moved here. All right, so as mentioned, we're circling back to make that right-hand turn onto Pilgrim Church off of Highway 6. Want to give you that reference point again. For those not familiar, this actually eventually turns into Old Cherokee Road. We'll cross over that later. We're not going to drive down Old Cherokee, but so hopefully gives you reference points to that. Either way, back there at that intersection on the right-hand side, Winger's Market, really good place to get plants and things like that. Very knowledgeable if you have questions. We've bought a lot of plants there ourselves. Either way, we're going to be coming up to a couple different lake neighborhoods. The first one, I'm going to bring up is the one coming up that you can probably start to see on the left-hand side of the screen. This is going to be Settlers Point at Lake Murray. The lake, as you can imagine, is on the other side of the road. They do have lake access across the street. So none of the homes are actually on the water, but again, lake access, which a lot of people ask about. Either way, in the last year, since the beginning of the year, 2,221 square foot up to 3,500 square foot sold. Homes ranging from 292,000 up to 485,000, with that average being right at about 385,000. As we kind of pass it on the right-hand side here now is going to be a gated neighborhood that does have homes leading up to the lake. It's going to be a gated neighborhood. Since the beginning of the year, one home sold 3,200 square feet for $1.55 million. So either way, on the left there, it's going to be the Village Green neighborhood. The slightly newer, not brand new, but just got wrapped up a couple years ago, 1,885 square feet to 3,918 square feet, 325,000 up to $500,000, with the average being 412,000. For those that bought back then, my wife actually used to be an agent in that neighborhood. That's right. So as we come up here, actually you passed LJ's. So the reason it's called Village Green is that used to be a golf course, and they sold off the land, they built Village Green, and then LJ's is just basically a driving range now, but they got really good bar restaurant in there, and they do music bingo. And this happens on Thursday night. Phenomenal thing to do. Definitely want to check it out. We go with the office often. It's a really fun time. All right, so the left here is going to be Old Cherokee Road. As you remember, I mentioned back when we were on 378. So like I said, this creates kind of a giant triangle. So if you live over here, you don't have to loop all the way around to get to the Walmart and all that shopping. To the right is going to take you right next to Lake Murray, and you're going to have some homes over there on the water as well as some neighborhoods. A little further down that way, you're going to end up going to the Kingston Harbor neighborhood on the lake, gated neighborhood as well. Give you an idea about that neighborhood. 2,792 square feet, homes sold in the last year, up to 5,698, pricing from 525,000 up to 1,025,000, average being right about 833,000. Other way, coming up here, so this is actually a nursing home on the left and kind of right, actually both. And that road back there is Maxey Road. We'll cross by it later on. I'll point out again because for those that have driven to the area, and many of you have mentioned it when you've driven down it, that is the road with the castle. That's right. If you haven't been to the area, want to drive down Maxey Road, because every time someone does, they're like, did I just drive by the castle? Yes, you did. And that castle actually sold a couple years back. Very unique backstory to that. But either way, that's that. Either way, a couple other neighborhoods on the right-hand side coming up here that were part of that established neighborhood I talked about, so you'll want to check out that video to learn more about these neighborhoods. A little more expensive as we get closer to town here. Either way, we're going to be coming up to an intersection. This is where continuing on, it's actually going to turn into, like I said, old, so I had to correct myself as I said that. I was like, wait, I just said Old Cherokee. That's right. So it actually changes at that light where Old Cherokee came in, and then it becomes Old Cherokee and Pickled Church goes away. So that was the part where it turns. But either way, we're gonna be making a right-hand turn this way, and we're gonna be heading down towards a neighborhood a lot of y'all asked me about. So we're gonna check it out and I'm gonna hop out there. But along the way, we're gonna pass a couple other neighborhoods. Before we do, on the left-hand side, that green space, remember this, because after we leave that neighborhood, I'm gonna hop back right to this section here because there's something really important I wanna talk about that's coming to that area. I know it's not a Dollar General. Either way, on the left-hand side, we're coming up to the Sterling Bridge neighborhood. Made a ton of videos about this in the past. So this neighborhood actually has 3 different styles of Mungo's homes, and I wanna break that down a little bit, right? Because I've talked about before where developers typically have multiple styles of homes, and this is one of the neighborhoods that utilize multiple. So you have your larger homes, then you had your patio style homes, and then they had their middle tier style homes. That neighborhood literally just sold out. Neighborhood right there on the left, I want to point out, Brandon Pass. That's right, the ultimate neighborhood. Now granted, turns out there's like 5 other neighborhoods with the name Brandon in it, so I thought this one was unique and I had to move there, but guess it's not so unique. Either way, going back to Sterling Bridge with those different styles, like I said, when we talked about the D.R. Horton 55 plus communities, those patio homes were geared towards that, but were not exclusive. I had people that were, trust me, younger that were like, hey, great, someone's gonna take care of my landscaping, sign me up. So either way, they had that style in there. Either way, give you the new homes that sold. Like I said, sold out, but wanted to give you an idea of it. 2078 square feet, up to 4,193 square feet, 360,000 up to 590,000, average right around 462,000. Resales, 1782 square feet up to 4,425 square feet, 386,000 up to 682,000. Average right at 497,000. For those that like Sterling Bridge, now that's sold out, your closest is gonna be Pulte Homes Carriage Estates. And I'll point out the road that it's gonna be on and kind of give you a reference point later on because we're not too far from it as we're in this area. Either way, going back, we're actually pulling into Governor's Grant, so I'm gonna hop out, talk about this neighborhood, and then we'll head back. All right, so out here at the Governor's Grant neighborhood, a lot of y'all ask me about this neighborhood, right? Tree-lined streets, established neighborhood, a mix of those traditional brick style homes, as well as you can see some of those southern homes with balconies and wraparound porches and so much more. And I'll talk about pricing in this neighborhood in just a second, but obviously another one of the highlights is the amenity center down here. As you do have a clubhouse, as well as off in the distance, you can see a pool. And I've been told that this neighborhood actually has a swim team in it because you know, a lot of those new neighborhoods have those Cancun fun-shaped size pools where this is an actual lap swim pool with lanes in there. So obviously a perk for those that like swimming laps. But to give you an idea of pricing here in Governor's Grant, first off, homes built starting back in the 90s, and a lot of it was sold off as lots as late as 2023. I think I showed some of y'all lots in these neighborhoods in recent times. So kind of a variety of different ages of homes, but like I said, a lot of them back in the 90s. Pricing in the last year though, ranged between $415,000 and $1,040,000. Price or the square footage of those homes range from 2,134 square feet up to 4,907. But that average price in the neighborhood in the last year was $627,000 out here in Governor's Grant. But let's continue on. All right, you're gonna wanna stick around because next I'm gonna head to that neighborhood that's coming right to downtown Lexington. But as mentioned, I wanted to stop by this green space right here at Old Cherokee and Old Chapin, then we'll continue on so you don't have to watch me drive down the same 2-lane road. But this green space came up for sale quite some time ago, and then a sold sign came up, and of course everyone's like, oh no, what's it gonna be? And then that came out that was actually donated to Lexington County Parks and Recreation to leave as a green space. I've seen some renderings where it looks like in the future they're actually gonna put a park out here, but leave a lot of green space. So obviously a benefit for these local neighborhoods to have a new green space and park in the future that they're gonna be able to come to. But again, let's continue on to downtown Lexington. All right, so as we continue back down Old Chapin Road towards downtown Lexington, to the right again is gonna be Old Cherokee. To the right is actually going to take you to New Providence Elementary School. One of the perks, again, of Sterling Bridge, if you watch my videos about that, a lot of people liked, is it backs up to that neighborhood. So for those with the kids drop off, they actually allow, there's a gate in the back so you can meet there and drop off there versus having to go all the way around to drop off at the school. As well, on the weekend, a lot of times you'll see they leave those gates open so the families go and use the park in there. Sterling Bridge does have a pool, but again, either way, on the right back there as well, you're gonna have patio homes followed by brand new Eastwood townhomes. I did videos about these a while back, if you remember Kensington Place. They do still have a few left for sale. 1732 square feet, selling for right around $255,000. Either way, we're pulling up to construction here, and I'm gonna give you some I'm gonna give you some backstory about Old Chapin Road, because it's a pretty interesting story that I learned from an agent that used to work for Mungo years ago. But either way, 2-lane roads, right? Sterling Bridge, people are like, such proximity to downtown. But as you can see, it's not like you can just hop on your bike or take a walk to downtown Lexington from there. Everything's drive, right? These 2-lane roads. And then you get construction like this, and it just causes a lot of issues. So this is one of the cons I hear from a lot of people. And why this neighborhood we're gonna talk about in a little bit is important, because a lot of people want that proximity to downtown. But when you don't have ease to get from where you live to the next place, what is really the pro, right? Like, I hope you're catching what I'm saying, because a lot of you ask me that. Where's those neighborhoods where I can easily get to downtown? And again, don't make it that easy. Either way, on the left here, that's Maxey Road. That's where the castle is, basically right as you turn there. Again, some of you know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. We're gonna be passing some, there it is, I take it back. Either way, we're passing some other neighborhoods that was in that established neighborhood, Rose Lake, Sharon Lake. We're gonna be coming up to some other neighborhoods, Waverly Point. In the last year, one home sold, 1040 square feet for $195,000. Similar style is gonna be Waverly Place on the other side of the street. Homes ranging from 1040 square feet up to 1136 square feet, pricing from $190,000 to $215,000, $194,000 average. So the tax records classify them as townhomes. If you actually look at them, they're kind of like those single story attached, where they look like patio homes almost, but they're attached. And so that's how they classify them. Otherwise, we're also gonna pass Lexington Heights. May get a little bit ahead of which exactly is which, but I wanna circle back to that Old Chapin thing. 2 homes sold in the last year. These are gonna be traditional single family, 1960 square feet up to 3130 square feet, from 356,000 up to 382,000. Oddly enough, the smaller one was the more expensive. One thing I've always told people, ranch floor plans with most of the living space downstairs, tend to sell price per square foot higher than 2-story houses. Either way, before we pull into this next stop and I hop out, again, retirement, nursing homes on either side of this and some apartments. Old Cherokee or Old Chapin Road. So Lake Murray, when they dammed it up and flooded, there was a town down there. And that road, Old Chapin Road, actually continued on to what we now know as Old Lexington Highway over in Chapin. That's right, so that's where the name comes from, because they were the connection point. I wish they built a bridge, because it would save me a lot of hours. I'm just kidding, we don't want a bridge going over Lake Murray. But either way, pretty unique to have that. That's the connecting point, Old Cherokee or Old Chapin and Old Lexington Highway. Either way, we're about to pull in this shopping center. I'm gonna hop out, talk about that. We'll drive through the rest of the shopping center, head to more of those parks, baseball fields, and so much more. So you'll wanna stick around, because there's still a lot we have to cover. This next stop specifically is one of the main things a lot of y'all have been asking about. So let's check this out. All right, so we're out here at the site of the first new construction neighborhood coming to downtown Lexington that we're gonna tour. That's right, there's another one that hasn't publicly been announced, but I got some insider information about it. And a lot of you all ask me about this, because we are gonna drive by some of the established neighborhoods in Lexington and homes, but many of you say, hey, where's those new construction neighborhoods where I can walk to get food, get ice cream, go to downtown and do all these things? And they're coming. This first one here we're talking about is Sandpiper Square. I talked about it in one of my videos about a year or so ago when it first got announced. And for those not familiar where we are, we're at the Flight Deck shop. So if you're not familiar, the Flight Deck restaurant right there at the end of Main Street. So you'd be in walking distance to, of course, these shops, and a little bit further down and you're in downtown Main Street. Again, Sandpiper Square, I'm gonna show you where it's gonna be. It's actually gonna be at the back side of this parking lot that we sit right now, that green space. Give you an idea of what this neighborhood's gonna be existing of, because they have a lot now on their website. Purdy Homes is the builder that's gonna be out here. They say they have 7 different floor plans. There's gonna be a total of 31 homes in this section back here. Homes ranging from 1,600 square feet up to 2,180 square feet. 4 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms, 2.5 baths to 3.5 baths. Again, very walkable when you go look at the pictures they have online of how they're setting this up. Give you an idea, right now they say home prices coming from the 400s with homes, again, walking distance downtown Lexington. But let's continue on, check out some more parks and another neighborhood coming to downtown Lexington. All right, so we're gonna circle the flight deck shops before we head to our next destination. And in here you have flight deck, obviously. We've eaten there, got an arcade in there, decorated all around flight as you can imagine. It's kind of a mixed menu, American style food, wings, country fried steak, popcorn shrimp, sandwiches, burger, salads, just a variety. It was really good. Horizon Travel, you saw that. Travel agencies do still exist. For all that said real estate agents are gonna disappear just like travel agents. I'm kidding. Grand Computers, they did fix my Mac battery one time years ago. You have Tokyo Grill in there, Yummy Creations, a nutrition shake plate, Blaney's Wings and Grill. Firehouse Subs, I love that place. So I used to be a Quiznos fan, toasty, right? I don't know where they all went though. And then on the West Coast, we finally got Firehouse Subs and I loved it. Anyways, you also have the South Carolina National Guard Recruiting Center there. I'm going back, so there's a lot of places surprising on the East Coast here that we didn't have for a long time on the West Coast. It looks like Columbia got its first back in 2008, Firehouse Subs. We didn't see ours in our town until 2050. Obviously, Chick-fil-A being the biggest one, where we didn't see our first one until 2010 in the town I grew up in, where I found an article that the one in Lexington we passed earlier opened in 1997. Oh, and CC's Pizzas. We got tons of commercials of the mac and cheese pizza, but never had one. It was honestly one of the first things I had to try when I got here because I was so tired of seeing commercials and never being able to try it. Anyway, circling back, from that flight deck, like I said, that's kind of the top of the area. From 378, remember I told you it was gonna take you to the top. It's about a half mile from flight deck to the amphitheater. So again, Sandpiper Square, easy to get back there, and there are sidewalks, right? Before we continue on the left here is gonna be a Lexington Medical Center urgent care. But so again, Sandpiper Square is gonna be totally walkable a half mile to down that. And I joke about the sidewalks because if you watch long enough, I talk about how outside of the town areas, there's no sidewalks, as we saw, right? Of course, in town, you're gonna have sidewalks as you see on either side of it and major roads. But when you leave the town area, it's just 2-lane roads that I wouldn't walk on. I mean, seen people doing it, but I'd be fearing for my life if I tried doing that. Either way, coming up here is gonna be the Highway 378 and Highway 1 split. So all these merge together and then merge back apart. So that's gonna take you down towards Lake Murray, down 378 and some other neighborhoods, continuing on down the lake. And then this is Highway 1. Now, decisions were made at this point. So originally I was gonna make a left there and we were gonna circle back to downtown Lexington, hit some of the other stuff we're gonna hit later on. But there's something really important I wanted to hit down this direction. Partially, if you remember in one of my other videos, I talked about how originally when we first moved to the area, the county said everything was gonna move west and the new center of town was basically where we're driving to. And you'll see how the county built a lot of their main hubs there, right? You have the dispatch center, you have the mechanics for all of the county fire, EMS, police, the EMS substations, right? There's a ton of stuff right in the area that we're about to head. But that's not the main reason I want to circle over there. There's a couple other things I want to point out that are important. But as we come up and we're going to be making a left, the next right about 3 miles down will take you to the Carriage Estate neighborhood. I've done a video about that, right? And that was one we talked about earlier. It's gonna be very similar to Sterling Bridge, hardy plank versus some of that brick, but either way, similar style. Straight ahead about a mile though, where we turn left, you're gonna have Lexington High School. On the way, you'll pass the brand new Mungo Hendricks Farm neighborhood. I've done a video about it as well. Both of these new construction neighborhoods selling in the area. But either way, I'm gonna speed this up to get us to where I wanted to be and not just talk about how this is gonna be the center of town forever. All right, so the main reason I wanted to bring you out here, not just because Lexington once said this was gonna be the center of town, but because of the Lexington Sport Complex, as well as the Lexington Blowfish Stadium right across the way, but I'll talk about that more when we get back in the car. But this sports complex, so a lot of you ask me, what do your kids do for fun and entertainment? I can tell you we spend a lot of days here at the sports complex because you got your t-ball fields, you got your coach's pitch, you got baseball fields, you got football fields, and because we have great weather, we got spring and fall seasons. I'm actually gonna be here tonight watching my kids play. And then for those asking, in just a little bit here, we're actually gonna walk by we're gonna drive by some soccer fields in the area. And softball, of course, as well. So I see a lot of co-ed when it comes to the T-ball, but over in the Red Bank Arena on the Red Bank side, they actually have softball fields over there for girls playing softball. So again, I know sports is a big thing for us, and I know some of you have mentioned this, and I've seen some of my clients out here with their kids, so that's why I wanted to swing by the sports complex. All right, so one other thing I didn't point out when I was there, I forgot, the tennis courts. They do have tennis courts in there as well. Either way, cross the street, Lexington County Blowfish from their site. And honestly, I knew some of this, but not all of this. Mainly their name. So the Blowfish baseball team was named in honor of the greatest band from the state of South Carolina. So back in the 90s, Blowfish co-owner Bill Shanahan operated the Capital City Bombers, single-A affiliated New York Mets. It was in Columbia, the historic Capital City Stadium. I've talked about this in some of my other videos when I was talking about the Fireflies. Either way, in 1995, Hootie and the Blowfish exploded on the national scene after years of playing local clubs in Columbia. That's right. As the band was touring the nation, they began to explore a coming home concert for Columbia, where it all started for them. And on September 13th, 1995, Hootie played their coming home concert at Capital City Stadium in front of a sellout crowd of over 11,000 fans, largest crowd in the history of the stadium that was built in 1927. Bill Shanahan never forgot that incredible hometown event. A decade later, Shanahan bought an expansion summer collegiate team in 2006 to play at the Cap, and named the team the Blowfish in honor of the band. One of their first opening nights, Hootie's drummer Jim Sonefield threw out the first ever ceremonial first pitch and for the 19 years at Blowfish home games, the team honors the band with Hootie inning, where they play one of the band's songs for the fans. In addition, the team has created a Hootie-themed player jersey the last 2 seasons, and in collaboration with the band has raised over $36,000 for the Lexington Medical Center Foundation. Again, this is a collegiate team, different than the Columbia Fireflies, which are a minor league baseball team down in Columbia. Now, to be honest, we've watched concerts at the ball field. So before the amphitheater was here, they did a concert here at the ball fields, but never actually went to a game. Now granted, with that said, we have friends down in Georgia that took us to the Making Bacon, and they're actually supposed to be playing the Blowfish. We went out to the stadium. Unfortunately, the game rained out and they never end up playing. Either way, let's talk about the sections of home that we're passing. They're made up of Lexington Town Estates and Creekwood. To give you an idea, homes in this area in the last year sold range from 1,597 square feet up to 2,616. You might have seen some bigger ones on the side of the road. Homes selling from 280,000 up to 410,000. Either way, down this road, we're gonna pass Bar Lake. New construction neighborhood. If you watch long enough, we might have already actually passed it as I look down. Homes sold from 2,514 square feet up to 4,207 square feet. 418,000 up to 535,000. Average around 492. Are still selling new construction in there. Resales sold from 2,403 square feet up to 4,185 square feet. 413,000 up to 650,000 average. Around 505,000. So yes, there are times where resales can sell higher than new construction, especially one that total the top had a really nice pool. I always tell people, if you don't change much on your house and there's new home selling, it's hard to compete with new construction. But oftentimes, because they're offering these crazy incentives, right? But of course, if you've done upgrades, it's a chance you sell for higher, especially pools. We do get value for pools in our areas. Either way, as we're coming up this area on the right-hand side, we're going to be passing the Bar Road Sports Complex. That's going to be the building, and then we'll talk about the other stuff around that. But the building is where you're going to have pickleball, volleyball, basketball, archery, yoga. As well, what you also see there is the Lexington County Gibson Road Soccer Complex. And as we loop this next corner, you're gonna see more of it. And so that has soccer fields, volleyball courts, restrooms, playground, baseball fields, picnic shelters, and walking trails. So as I said, a lot of opportunities for sports in the area, no matter what you're looking for. Like I said, swimming is the hardest one. As someone that grew up a swimmer, this was a struggle for us, but we are finding our ways. Don't worry, as I said, we're putting one in our backyard. But of course, we are looking into the swim team for our kid. Either way, as we pull down and past this park here, we're gonna be pulling into the homes that are walking distance to downtown Lexington. That's right, so this first on the left, that's the Ford dealership. But we're gonna be pulling into that area, and you'll see as we kind of pull into this, I've showed some people homes in this area, and unfortunately, as we kind of drive through this, you'll see not all of them are in great shape. This is kind of one of the interesting things, right? As you go to downtown Columbia, right, you go into the Shandon neighborhoods and so much like that a lot of people seek out. They tend to, that area tend to maintain very well. Now, part of that reason I've talked about when doing videos about the Shandon area and all around it is that those areas had their regulatory boards. They weren't HOAs, but they had their own regulation. And with that, helped kind of maintain that area quite a bit. Where over here, again, no HOAs, no governing board telling them, hey, can't do this, can't do this. And unfortunately, it's kind of what you see here. And I've had a lot of people that just weren't impressed when they came through here when we looked at homes. Because again, as you can see, they got sidewalks that would take you right to downtown Lexington that I know people would love to have. And so that's why a lot of people ask about these newer neighborhoods to have access to those newer homes in the areas. Either way, there's gonna be a park. I'm not sure if we passed it yet. As I was talking about that, we're gonna turn and loop back around, but Character Park. So this is a small park in the area. Not a big one, but of course is one for this area. But we're gonna be making a right here and kind of loop back to that road that, if you remember, I said decisions were made. That's this road right here, passes a Ford dealership. And I'm gonna be honest, because a lot of people are saying, I know why you went. The comment section always lights up, right? Locals always wanna get mad and they're like, you didn't show them this on purpose. So when we come to the stop sign, on the right is, yes, the Lexington County Jail. This isn't the prison. I'll get to that in a second. This is just Lexington County's detention center. So if you get pulled over and they take you to the detention center, this is where you go. Now, we do have the Broad River Correctional Institution. It's gonna be over off of Broad River in the Columbia area, kind of between St. Andrews and the Harbison Forest area. But again, I didn't want people to say, hey, you didn't talk about that. You dodged that on purpose. No, I did not. I just wanted to show you the homes. Either way, we're coming up to some other neighborhoods, and as you can see, sidewalks here, and we're getting closer back to downtown and some other parks that we're gonna stop at. So these ones, you could walk to downtown again, and you'll see that as we go on. But Gibson Forest, 3 homes sold in the last year, 1298 square feet to 1622 square feet, 229,000 up to 284,000 with 248,000 average. And then you also have another section that was Gibson. Passing that, those are kind of more patio type style homes. As well, 1092 square feet up to 1384 square feet, 199,000 up to 250,000 with an average right around 220,000. And obviously on the side of the road, it's a bunch of different random homes that aren't a part of neighborhoods. There's a couple other neighborhoods that we will come up to in just a little bit here. So it's kind of a mix of that, of those non-HOA kind of random homes sticking around, as well as a couple neighborhoods. As we come up here, we're gonna be going to a park, but right after, there's a couple neighborhoods that would be closer to downtown Lexington. But obviously the proximity to this park, which I'm gonna hop out and talk about here, this is kind of a really cool spot you'll wanna check out. All right, so I'm out here at the brand new revitalized Gibson Pond Park. And this starts a little backstory as we head back over to the Old Mill Pond and talk about what's going on over there. So for those of you that have followed me for some time, recall I've talked about the 2015 thousand-year storm that came through when we first moved here. During that storm, upstream from this, Bar Lake, their dam ended up breaking, which caused a lot of issues downstream, including the collapsing of the Old Mill Pond Dam and so much more. And so with that, forced them to come back and basically revitalize all of these dams as well as the park itself. So that's where you see these brand new bridges across, brand new walking trails, redid the green space with swings out there, picnic tables, benches, cabanas. You got the fishing pier out there, boat launch, and so much more. And so like I said, what started as a catastrophe turned into revitalization of not only this park, but the Old Mill Pond that we'll talk about, the massive transformation that's happening over there and what's coming to that area. So let's drive down that way. Again, as we leave this park, we're gonna be heading back down to downtown Lexington. There is a neighborhood up here on the left, smaller neighborhood, newer with that said, built 2010 to 2012-ish, right? Now, last time anything sold in here was back in 2021, and the average price back then was $361,000. And as you know, prices have changed quite a bit since 2021, so I don't think this is a good indicator of what they would sell for today. Either way, as we come up here around the corner, there's actually gonna be another independent living facility on the right-hand side, and we're gonna come up to the light and we're gonna be making a left. To the right though is going to take you back to the interstate. Less than a mile up that way, you're gonna hit I-20 right here at South Lake over in this direction right here. I take that back, South Lake heading that direction. On the way, you're gonna pass the American Leadership Charter School that opened a couple years ago. I know some of you came to the area and got your kids into that school. And then eventually continue on. That'll take you to South Lexington, and eventually hit neighborhoods like Bluefield and more. Either way, on the left is gonna be a smaller neighborhood, Middlebrook as well. One home sold in the last year, 2,933 square feet for $405,000. And as you can see, you got two homes outside of the neighborhood. Either way, on the left coming up here as we pull into town, actually first for the right, the Old Mill Pond, there's going to, and we're gonna talk about that in just a little bit, there's going to be an entrance and a parking right here. You can already see them working on it. You probably won't catch eye of it in this video, but that's gonna be one of the entrances right past it. I don't know if you caught eye of it. On the left-hand side there, we're gonna be coming up to Cafe Strudel, really good brunch spot when you're in town. It's gonna be right past these tree clearings in that field back there. That's where that entrance is to it. Either way, we're gonna be circling back to that park that I promised you that we were gonna circle back to as we came through this area here in just a second. And there's Cafe Strudel right there on the left-hand side. And in the distance, you can see the county buildings, and I'll circle back to that in just a little bit here. All right, so as I said earlier, when we left downtown Lexington, we're gonna check out that brand new park they built behind the town. And that's this Virginia Hilton Park that I'm out at right now. Now on that side, there's a ton of kids playing right now, so I'll come back and catch some B-roll so you can get an idea of that, but I'll head over this way as I talk about it, because obviously this is an awesome expansion of this park, having this right here behind the town square for those that want to come play in the park, grab some food, grab some ice cream, go to a concert, mini amphitheater over here as well. On the back side of this, they do have a dog park, take the dogs running. So like I said, a lot of growth has come to the area when it comes to green space and parks, and obviously the revitalization and the announcement of the brand new Virginia Hilton Park has been exciting for a lot of people. All right, so again, on the right-hand side is going to be the county building. So the first building you have, that's where you're gonna go pay your taxes, right? When we talk about people having to pay their taxes, this is where it's going to be. And then after that is gonna be Big Court. Left court is gonna be your traffic ticket court, but Big Court is the one on the right-hand side, the big building that we saw from the distance. Unfortunately, I had to go testify there once back when I was an EMT. No, I wasn't on trial. Either way, as we turn and head back towards the Old Mill Brew Pub, to the left is where we got started again. It's less than half a mile from downtown where we're driving to. But as you can see along this drive, there's not much as far as shopping and restaurants. So I've always said this is kind of the gap that I feel needs to be closed to connect these two. Now I've always talked about how the county has once was a 40-year plan, now it's 35 years, the last time I looked at it, I think is what it said, of roads that need to be widened, updated. This is one of the priority ones on it that needs to be updated. As you can see coming backwards, the traffic that gets into this area. So I'd be curious to see if they continue to make this like downtown Lexington, right? Where you have the 2 lanes and you have the parking on either side of this. Fill that gap, fill that connection point, and then you also see those shops coming in here and such like that, because that would be awesome to close this gap, continue to close this area around here, especially as I hop out and talk about what's coming to the area, because there's quite a bit down here, but it's that gap between there and here that I feel like needs to fulfill to connect those two. And I'll pull in here and circle the bottom so you can see that bottom half, because this has grown quite a bit in recent time as well. Because you got Hazelwood Brewery down here, which is really good. We did our Christmas party there one year. Good food, good times, good drinks down that way. You have chiropractor's office down here. You have a bunch of different things, but we're gonna head back to the back side of this to check out the Old Mill Pond and talk about what's coming to this area right here in downtown Lexington. All right, so we're back out here at the Old Mill Pond. And in just a minute here, I'm going to talk to you about the brand new thing coming to this area that so many of you asked me about. But I want to kind of get backstory of where this area came from and where it's growing to. So as I talked about earlier when we were in downtown Lexington, when we first moved here, there wasn't a lot down there. And to be 100% honest, whenever we went out to lunches or dinners, or to be 100% honest, The first time we ever came to visit Lexington, South Carolina was our anniversary. We actually had dinner at the Old Mill Brew Pub overlooking the Old Mill Pond. As I said, in 2015, the dam collapsed. The building was saved, but obviously it was a struggle for them at that time. Add on after that, you had the takeoff of downtown Lexington, and you saw a lot of that traffic move from this area up to that area. And a lot of people feared of whether or not they would continue to make it. Since then, though, there's been a lot of revitalization. You see Hazelwood Brewing down there. You see all these other shops coming into the shopping center. And then Lexington made the announcement of this giant walking trail that goes around this entire area, something that so many of you ask about and so many of the town of Lexington have asked about, more green space, more walking trails, because there really wasn't a ton of them in the area. And so they started by doing this, and it's not open yet. As you can see, still kind of blocked off behind me, but a lot of people are already starting to use this as well. But either way, I've also been told that there's a developer that owns some land right on the other side of this pond. And their intent is to develop it into patio homes as well as townhomes. What that would mean is you can walk out your back door onto this walking trail, come have a bite to eat, walk up, watch a concert at the amphitheater, have some ice cream, head back home, all within walking distance, right? As you saw as we toured the area, there's a lot of older established areas around town, but so many ask me about those new homes. And obviously with Sandpiper Square and now the rumor mill of this coming to this area is just bringing all those things that so many of you ask for to the area. Now, of course, if Lexington isn't for you, there's so many other great areas around the Midlands of South Carolina, Columbia, Lexington, and Lake Murray. And you'll want to check out this playlist because I dive into them. Areas like Irmo, like Chapin, Blythewood, Northeast Columbia, and so many more to see which area fits you best.